The internet is a really big place. It continues to give us a deeper and convincing knowledge of the happenings around us. Some are very mysterious if you take a moment to speculate if they're actually true. Number 5. John Titor. John Titor was a self-proclaimed military time traveler from the year 2036 who posted several bulletin boards on an online forum during 2000 and 2001. In these posts, Titor made several predictions about future events. Starting with the events in 2004, he described a drastically changed future in which the United States had broken up into 5 independent states, the environment and infrastructure had been deteriorated by a nuclear attack, and most of the world's superpowers had been destroyed. According to Titor, the Civil War would end in 2015, with an intense World War III. He refers to the exchange as End Day. Omaha, Nebraska would be the U.S. capital after the war. Titor was vague as to the exact causes and motivation of World War III. At one point, he described the hostilities as to being led by border clashes and overpopulation. He also pointed a contemporary conflict between the Arabs and Israel being a milestone that precedes World War III. Titor also mentioned the cancellation of the 2008 Olympics due to several conflicts, most likely implying that civil unrest leading up to the war rendered the Olympics impractical and unwanted. These were the Olympics ultimately held in Beijing, China, and if you remember correctly, they were close to not happening. This was the time that Tibetan protests spread throughout Chinese provinces with calls for independence and return to Dalai Lama, monks of the Tibetan Buddhism schools. Many wondered if this would interfere with the Olympics, leading to a boycott. The Olympics ended up happening anyway. In 2009, a private investigator, Larry Hebert, and his brother, Rick Hebert, were thought to be the most likely men to be behind the legend. They both had computer knowledge, and Hebert was discovered to be the CEO of a pro-profit company known as John Titor Foundation, which was formed 2 years after John Titor's appearance on the internet. Despite this, many of Titor's fans still claimed his predictions were too elaborate to be false. Many believe these predictions served as a warning and that they somehow altered the future. To this day, many who had an encounter with him still wonder who he was and if his time-traveling stories were true. Number 4. Jack Furries emails. In June 2011, at the age of 32, Pennsylvanian Jack Furries suffered a fatal arrhythmia that left all of his friends and family devastated by his passing. 5 months later, Furries' loved ones began receiving emails from his account, regenerating the grieving process, which was on its verge of settling down. Tim Hart, one of Furries' closest friends, became the target of the first emails to be sent. During an interview conducted with the BBC, Hart recalls he was sitting on his couch going through emails on his phone when it suddenly popped up, Sender, Jack Furries. And according to his words, he turned ghost white. He read it, and it was quick and short. Its contents, as he said, it was only Furries and himself could relate on. Hart said Furries used to privately tease him about his messy attic. The message read, "Did you hear me? I'm at your house. Clean your effing attic." Even creepier, the subject line read, "I'm watching you." He reportedly sent replies to the account, but has never received any messages back. Hart firmly believes that there's a very minimal chance that someone outside of the pair would know of the private conversations between the friends. It was very unlikely that either of them would really share the experience to a third party. Furries' cousin, Jimmy McGrow, also received a post-obit email from the account. Jimmy was similarly taken by surprise upon receiving the email, much more so the privileged and private information enclosed in it. In the email, Jimmy was warned about an ankle injury he had suffered after Furries had already passed. The email read, "Hey Jim, how you doing? I knew you were going to break your ankle. I tried to warn you. You gotta be careful." Jimmy strongly believed Furries sent the email, trying to connect with him and telling him to move on and to feel better. Furries' mother, Patty, told Hart and Jimmy to accept the emails they received as gifts, as reported by the New York Daily News. She adds she saw the emails made people happy while some were upset, but to her it was comforting as people continued to talk about him. Although the source of the emails is still unknown, Hart says he doesn't care, even if he turns out to be a victim of a cruel prank. He takes it whatever way he wants. Number 3. The Hands Resist Him by Bill Stoneham. Stoneham, now 69, lived in Chicago at his grandmother's apartment. The place was so small, Stoneham had to sleep on a mat in a closet filled with dresses, coats, and hats. During an interview with Daily Dot, Stoneham says it felt like not being in a room at all. It was like being in an article of clothing. He regularly played with one of the girls in the neighborhood. During one of these occasions, his parents had the pair pose in front of a glass door for a photograph. Little did they know that 2 decades later, their son would transform the eventful childhood photo into a terrifying painting that has become the attention of internet legend. Stoneham finished the Hands Resist Him painting in 1974, and by 1984, 3 people associated with it had died. The photograph of an innocent childhood moment transformed into an image that haunts the internet's collective nightmare. Another 26 years passed before Stoneham heard of the painting again. Unbeknown to him, it had been abandoned behind a California brewery turned art space. In 2000, the painting resurfaced on eBay in a listing. The family selling it wrote a description of the horror story they had encountered while in possession of the painting. The description read, "At the time they received the painting, they thought it was really good. They wondered why it would be discarded like that. One morning, their 4.5-year-old daughter claimed the children in the painting were fighting and came into the room during the night. The father didn't quite believe her until one day he set up a motion-sensitive camera in the room to show the daughter there was nothing to be afraid of. Instead, he saw a boy crawl out of the painting." Some of the listing's viewers complained about experiencing supernatural occurrences after visiting the listing. One reported hearing an exorcist voice with a blast of hot air. Today, the painting rests in a storage pocket in Smith's Gallery in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Number 2. The Plague Doctor Video. 11B-X-1371 is the name given to a video that went viral on YouTube in early 2015 from an unknown origin. John Eric, founding editor of the Swedish tech blog Gadget ZZ, received a creepy puzzle sent to him via email. An envelope postmarked in Warsaw and addressed to Johnny K through the site post office with no return address contained a very weird DVD with an alphanumeric string written on it, long enough to require 2 lines. He publicized it on his own blog. The video was reported to have been received by other people who say to have received them in a bizarre fashion. The segment is 2 minutes long, consisting of a black and white footage of a person wearing what appears to be a plague doctor costume, walking and standing around in an abandoned building with a forest visible through window openings in the wall behind it. It is accompanied by a soundtrack of loud buzzing noises. The masked figure holds up a hand with lights that blink irregularly. Viewers have described the experience of watching it for the first time as being unsettling and creepy. Many have likened it to the experience of watching the video in the 2002 film The Ring. Some complained of being mentally uncomfortable watching the video and hearing the sound like it was some trigger of mind control. Number 1. The NASA Hack. Gary McKinnon from North London hacked into 16 NASA computers as well as the United States Army, Navy, Air Force, and Department of Defense computers between February 2001 and March 2002, looking for evidence of free energy suppression and a cover-up of UFO activity and other technologies covered up potentially useful to the public. McKinnon had heard that information about the existence of extraterrestrials was being hidden from the public. When he hacked into NASA's Johnson Space Center systems, he found a picture of a large cigar-shaped object with high definition hovering over the northern hemisphere. In the systems of the United States Space Command, he found a log listing non-terrestrial officers. Some of these logs proved to be ship-to-ship transfers as they had names like the USSS LeMay and USSS Hillenkoetter. The USSS stands for United States Spaceship. This could mean there exist some off-planet spaceships that the public do not know about. According to McKinnon, non-terrestrial officers doesn't particularly mean little green men. What he thought it meant is these officers were not Earth-based. The search for UFO cover-ups, however, landed McKinnon in trouble as the Americans believed he had caused damage worth $800,000 to computers between 2001 and 2002. He, however, ended up not being prosecuted, as it was difficult bringing the case against him in the United Kingdom when the evidence was in the US. He's believed to have committed the biggest military hack of all time.